Welcome to Conversations with Dr. Skip Mason,
pastor, preacher, historian, author,
teacher, librarian, archivist, world traveler,
collector, family historian, avid reader, and creator of the popular Vanishing Black Atlanta Facebook page.
but a lot of folks who love history.
Most importantly, he's our dad who loves his family and who taught us the importance of our history and having important conversations.
Join him now for this episode of Conversations with Dr. Skip.
Well, let me say a good evening to everyone. This is Skip Mason, and I'm so delighted to greet you on this beautiful Tuesday and to welcome you to another conversation with one of our Episcopal families. I am just equally excited tonight to be able to share with the Lindsay family because I have some history with the family and especially with one of my high school friends and bandmates, Wayne Lindsay. And so I've known this family and have had the utmost respect for Bishop Lindsay for many years. And I'm just delighted to be able to come and to share them with you this evening. Let me begin by thanking Bishop Walker and Bishop Brown, Sister Teresa Duhart with the CTI committee. Let me greet the senior bishop and his wife, Bishop Lawrence Reddick, and Sister Wendy Reddick, and the College of Bishops, and to all of you who tune in on Sunday and on Tuesday. Now, what I need for you to do is to host a watch party. I know everybody's trying to get ready for the season premiere of Greenleaf. Look, y'all got 56 minutes before Greenleaf comes on, okay? But we're gonna spend some time with the wonderful Lindsay family. But host a watch party, hit the share button, and share it with others who love our beloved church and who are interested as we celebrate 150 years. It is my joy to bring up two of the sons of Bishop Lindsay. Let me bring up Brother Nathaniel Lindsay, the oldest son, and let me bring up Brother Wayne Lindsay, the youngest son, and let me greet these Lindsay brothers. I'm telling you, looking dapper and good, and as you all can see, we all go to the same barber.
Yes, we do.
We have the same barber, and I'm telling you, bald is in, will always be in. Okay, it never
Yes,
goes out
sir.
of style.
No,
But
no.
Brother Nate and Brother Wayne, welcome, man. How are you all doing?
Thank you.
We're doing just fine, Brother Skip. It's so good to be here. Thank you for inviting us. I had heard about what you were doing before you got around to us. And so I was eagerly awaiting in anticipation of this day.
Absolutely. Look, brother, because you knew it was coming.
I hoped it was coming.
Absolutely. You knew that it was coming and coming soon. And I'm just glad that both of you, and let me thank your sister Angela, who is with us in spirit this evening, for all of her help in coordinating and helping to round up the Lindsay brothers to be in place. I love those Lindsay vibes and dynamics. You all still work together, as your mother
Definitely.
absolutely as your mother would have it. But I want to begin before we get into talking about your dad and his wonderful career and of course your amazing mother. How is your mother doing?
Nate, you there with the Nate? Talk
She's
to her.
doing pretty good. Yeah, she's 90 years old now, so
Bless her heart.
she's we're happy. She's not having to go through some of the things that some people that live that long can have to go through. So we just focus on the positive. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, she is a treasured jewel, and I'm happy to be one of her pastors. I called her just before her birthday, and we made sure that the church members reached out and showered her with some cards. And as I told Wayne, I called her what was going to be maybe a 10 or 15-minute call, and it turned into 30 minutes and then 45 minutes. And then I said, I might as well just relax. And when she releases me, then I'll go on to the next thing.
I understand. Yeah, that's the way it works.
We had a joyful time. But before we begin, let's connect the dots. Y'all know who this young man is right here?
Watch out.
Huh?
Oh boy.
Do you know who this young man is right here? Nate, hey, Nate, tell us about that young lad. What do you remember about that? We're going to get to your dad in a second, but as they say, I need to do first things first.
That looks like something from his high school period when he was in the band.
Speaking of band, there he
is.
And so we first became acquainted when I was in the band as well at Thurl.
That's right.
What Wayne may not know is that, if I didn't have any self-esteem or identity in high school, it would have been shot because too many people in high school called me Wayne Lindsay. I know we didn't look alike. I'm telling you, if they didn't call me Wayne Lindsay, they called me Wayne Lindsay's brother. Okay.
Yeah, you know why that is?
Why is that?
Because you and I both shared those dented afros.
I think Wayne, we both shared the afros,
but they had the dents in them. See how it's not round
they
at
had
all?
The dents in them, and then you and I had wide smiles and buck teeth. Okay,
that's right.
Mine was pre-braces. Okay,
mine too. I didn't get my braces till 10th grade. So
I didn't get mine until 10th grade.
See what I mean? So yeah, we had that in common.
So that's why they mixed us together.
Look, all right.
That's not all bad.
You taking it back, baby.
That was a blessing.
Both you guys had a lot going on.
We had a lot going on.
Those were some great times being in that Thurl High School marching Pride of Atlanta band, the Panthers.
Great time. And then during the summer we would go down to old hot dusty Payne College for the
leadership training school.
Yeah, I spent my time down there too.
Oh, I'm sure
you guys.
I'm sure all of the Lindsay children had to do leadership training school.
Let me tell you one of my, first thing pops in my mind when you tell me that. We go to Payne College for leadership training school, and the campus is empty, so they put us in the dorms.
Yeah.
And we 13 and 14 grown-ups in the dorms, staying on campus, right?
Right.
Now, Payne College don't have screens in their dorms.
That's true.
Dorm rooms.
That's right.
And little did I understand or have a clue that when I woke up the next morning after sleeping with the window open, that I was going to have a swollen face with mosquitoes slept on my face the night before.
Oh my goodness!
So my first day of leadership training school
you were swollen up.
I was all and itching at the same time. So yeah, but boys, you talking about some good times. Fat man's across the street.
I remember, and if it was challenging for us, Nate, when you went, I'm sure it was rustic. I mean,
hey, I only have good memories because I've forgotten a lot of them, other than just the fact that we had to go down there and go through the process.
Yeah,
but it was all positive for me, and I just it's been a lot longer for me too than you guys. So my memories, I really got to go back further.
Yeah,
and dust some stuff off.
Let me put this distinguished picture up here of the Lindsay family. Beautiful, beautiful picture. Were you all? Do you remember, Nate? Are you still in Atlanta, or were you all moving about at the time? Where were you?
That was DC, wasn't it, Wayne?
No, that was California when we first got here.
Oh, okay, California.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
you know what though? It might be DC, Nate. It might be, but because
I believe it was.
It might be DC. That might be DC. You're right, Nate. Because Angela's a little younger.
I believe it is.
Yeah, Angela's a little younger, and I remember that suit. I got that suit in 12th grade.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
That was my favorite.
That's a nice suit. So listen, in Atlanta, the Lindsay family is a dynasty. Okay. I mean, and I knew that, the family was very well known and very well thought of. But one day, let me see if I can find that picture. I posted this picture on Facebook.
Yes.
And people began I have a Vanishing Black Atlanta page with about 40,000 native Atlantans, and all we do is talk about Atlanta's history. And I posted this picture, and I identified it as the Lindsay family, and then people began to chime in, and they remembered Lindsay's daycare, they remembered Bishop Lindsay, and they began to just add all kinds of wonderful comments. I think I have this ID, the Lindsay family, Lewis, Reverend Malvin, Bishop Nathaniel, Matt. Well, this may not have the wives' name, because there are two pictures. There's one with the wives and one without the wives. But
I haven't seen the one with the wives. I didn't mean to cut you off, but what I was getting ready to interject is that my father's only sister, the firstborn, Lizzie May, is not pictured in this picture.
Oh, she's not in this picture.
No. So in this picture, as it existed in my grandmother's house, had a cutout of Aunt Lizzie May right above my dad, so that all 9 were there.
That's right. You are so right about that. And I have seen that picture. Your aunt, I think your aunt Edith Lindsay has a copy. Here's the picture. That's it.
That's all boys with her.
Yes.
Oh, that's a different picture.
That's a different picture.
That's another one than what I'm talking about, because what I'm talking about is the exact same picture with my mother and my uncle's wife, Aunt Velma.
Wow.
Uncle Mac's wife is the other woman in that picture.
What did you all grow up knowing about your daddy's family, the Lindsays, and
You want to start, Nate, and I'll take over?
We weren't living in Atlanta until '66.
Okay.
So we would go back and forth to visit. Usually July 4th was a time that we would be back there once a year at least, I believe. That's what my memories are, that we had a big get together at my grandparents' house. And there was a big feast in the backyard every July 4th. So
wow.
Well, for me, my memories, to answer that same question, is that we understood how big our family was.
Okay.
And we understood how unique we were, because Lindsay is Linsey. So back in the day, one thing that was interesting to do would be to open the phone book and look at the long list of our entire family.
Right.
Because everybody in that phone book under Linsey was a relative. And there are 38 grandchildren in the family. You know what I'm saying? So that in itself was interesting. So I knew I had a whole lot of cousins. That was very interesting, right? Because Nate is, 9 years older than me, and Ricky's 8 years older than me.
Okay.
Now Angela is the youngest grandchild of the 38.
Oh, she is. Okay.
Yes. You see, so therefore, I had so many old. Matter of fact, when the 4th of July parties that Nate's talking about,
right?
They'd have the piano at grandmama's house or whatever, and Ricky and all the cousins would be on it. I get ready to play the piano. They pushing me off. Go sit down, little boy. I couldn't even get to the piano, Skip. You know what I mean?
Couldn't even get to it, huh?
I couldn't get to it because I was, like I said, I was a baby to them. And I'll tell you another thing that stands out. After one of those 4th of July get-togethers, and they were huge. I mean, they'd be making ice cream, churning it in the basement. They'd have the sodas in the big tub.
Wow.
I mean, it was just the best time. All my cousins, but all the Aunt Lizzie May lived in Detroit. She was the only one other than us from time to time that didn't stay in Atlanta, because she married a man from Detroit, Melvin Porter, Uncle Melvin. And so they were away. But anyway, they were all there. And one year, James Brown was at Atlanta Stadium.
Wow.
And Nate and Ricky and the cousins and everything was going. And they told them that they couldn't go unless they took me. And I'm talking about 68, 69, somewhere early on.
So you were all of 6 years old at least.
Well, I must have been 8, 7, 8, 9, somewhere along there.
Right.
Older than 6.
Okay.
It wasn't that young, because I wouldn't have remembered.
That's right, because you're a year older. Yeah.
That's right.
Right.
Exactly. But anyway, that was my first ever concert, and I'll never forget it to this day. I remember the jokes, Maceo telling jokes. I remember somebody shot a gun and everybody scattered off the field, because we were actually on the field at Atlanta Stadium. But that's that anyway. That's what comes to my mind.
My first concert was James Brown.
Was it as well?
April of 1968.
You might be my brother.
Listen, in April of 1968, Nate, you remember the old City Auditorium downtown. They used to have a lot of shows and concerts. And one Saturday, my mother said, we're going to a matinee. She said, do you want to go see James Brown? And I was about 6 years old at the time. And I said, yes. And so we went down. The show was packed, lots of teenagers, matinee, standing up in the chairs. We were in the back because we brought our tickets on the spot. So I couldn't see James Brown. So, mama said, we're going around to the front. That time, you could trust kids to go around to the front and get back safely. I went around to the front. Somebody saw me and pointed over to me, and I followed them because I didn't know any better. And they stood me up in a chair on the front row at the City Auditorium to see James Brown fall on the stage and to see Maceo put that cape on. That's a memory that has never left my mind, So
you don't forget that, do you?
You don't
see James Brown and have it not leave a mark.
You don't forget it. Well, who is this dapper young man right here?
You know who that is. That's Reverend Nathaniel Lindsay.
My goodness.
Reverend Nathaniel Lindsay. You know what? I'll just interject before we even get into talking about him. Growing up with a dad like my dad.
Yeah.
A preacher. Suit and tie.
Right.
As a kid, I thought he was a square.
Did you really?
I did, because he looked like a square to me next to secular fathers.
Yes.
You know what I mean? He didn't smoke cigarettes. He wasn't drinking beers. He wasn't hanging out doing things that I thought were cool or like other people's relaxed families were doing.
Right.
We weren't playing cards on Sunday. We didn't go to the movies on Sunday. This is my early years. Later on, he relaxed a little bit and let us, just choose some things more for ourselves. But early on, I just thought it wasn't until I was an adult that I really was able to see the value in his swag. Because Daddy was cool.
Yes,
he was a cool dude. He really was.
He was.
Yeah,
but my experience was different than that. Because
what was your experience, Nate?
See, my father used to come up to the school where we went through a lot of different cities and stuff like that. I was born in Chicago. All of us were born in different places.
Okay.
He graduated from Payne. Then he went up to Howard and finished his theology degree. And then he got married, went straight to Chicago and took a job there over the youth, some kind of youth, first youth person for the CME Church. Yeah, director or something like that. But it was a new position that they had created. But what I remember, which my memory in the family was about 4 years old. My brain kind of woke up closer to 5 years old when we got to Knoxville, Tennessee. And it was so cold there. I just remember waking up and with covers on, and they had to turn the heat on or put wood in the stove. So, and then I think, but basically what I remember with my father coming to a lot of the school meetings, like for the PTA and other kind of auditorium events, he would pray a lot of the times. They would ask him to give the prayer. And I knew he was different than a lot of other parents, but I had experienced in Birmingham, Alabama, and Knoxville, where we had been before that, his leadership in the community, his leadership, not just in a church, but because he was marching and protesting to make a difference in the community. I saw those kinds of things already with him being involved with the NAACP in Tennessee, making sure that blacks could go to a white school. And then he went to jail in Knoxville, and then I wasn't even aware of that then. I think they kept that from me, but I found out later on. But I still knew that he was the kind of person that made friends real easy with the young people. They were very comfortable with him, and I knew that he was well read. He was a go-getter in terms of making things happen. He built the church that we were there in terms of from a few people or a handful of people is more like it, to it being a thriving church in Knoxville. And they were able to end up. We started off living in a new church that they had, not a new church, but a pretty good sized church. I don't know who had it before, which had a parsonage that was a part of the church. And we moved shortly after we got there and moved into that parsonage, which was there. And we stayed there for a little while, and then they were able to move on and purchase a church. I mean, a parsonage.
Okay.
In Knoxville. And I watched my father interact with the other ministers, and I saw him in the pulpit, preaching, and then I saw the respect that he had, and I saw his ability to lead and work with all sorts of people. So I wasn't comparing him like Wayne was. I didn't care much about for other folks that the fact that I didn't consider that being cool. I just knew that there were people at different levels, and he was at a different level. And so that's why he wore that suit. And I wanted to emulate him and not get my hands dirty either. So I went to college. And I got a corporate job down the road. So, hey, and I met a lot of other people, like people in government, blacks in all kind of positions, just like King, that he went to high school with.
That's right.
People who own their own businesses at a young age, a lot of successful people. And it changed my life because I got exposure to all of those people at a young age.
I mean, he is, as the pastor of West Mitchell, I've had the opportunity to do research, and of course he grew up in West Mitchell, the old church,
right,
and was very involved in activities, including the Boy Scouts, and he sang in the choir. In fact, that's him directly behind Reverend Shorts. Pastor Shorts is at the pulpit, but that's him standing behind, and he's on a lot of pictures throughout, and of course received his call while he was at West Mitchell Street. So
he was 17.
17.
At 17.
Yeah, 17. Yeah.
And so we are just proud to call him our own. You mentioned he went to Payne College. I think this is his graduation picture from Payne.
Wow,
Nathaniel, Lindsay. Yep, and
you're gonna have to send this to me, Skip. So
I
will. One of the pictures I sent you earlier was of him while he played football in Payne.
Oh yeah, let me put that one up.
He told me he was scat back. I'm not a football player. I'm a piano player. But he said I played scat back, which I don't know what a scat back is. But you don't run it back.
I don't either. But if he said, here it is, right here. Yes.
Yes, that's him right there. With
yeah.
I guess y'all know what he looks like. But yeah, that's him on the football team. I was like, Daddy, you were a football player?
Yeah.
And then something else too that I didn't that Nate didn't mention when he was talking about Daddy graduating from Howard. Our parents were married in Rankin Chapel the day of his graduation.
Your mother told me, and I have a beautiful picture. Let me see if I can find it here. Yes. Of their beautiful wedding. Isn't that something?
Yes, and the man on the right is Dean. He's the dean. I forget his name, but he married
Dean of the chapel at the time.
Yes, he was. And they were so kind to my parents. The dean. Yeah, and that's my beautiful mother.
Your mother is just charming. I do want to share something with you. Let me see if I can find it. Wayne, in the age of COVID, I'm and trying to operate. I am the host. I'm the producer.
Look, don't get me started. I understand that role too well.
And trying to do all of these wonderful things at the same time.
Who else gonna do it, Skip?
Well, listen, nobody's not.
Nobody.
I might as well just learn how to do it and be happy with it.
Well, but what? Being the technical guru that I am extremely impressed because you're working it, brother. You splitting the screen, you coming up with the images on top, you working your thing. So
man, look, Bless you, brother. Bless you. But talk about your mom, and as I find this thing that I want to share, talk about your mom and dad's relationship together.
Okay, that is. You want to start, Nate, or you want me to start?
I'll start. You can wrap it up.
Okay.
Yeah, they spent 60 years, shy of about 2 or 3 months together before he passed as a man and wife, yeah, husband and wife. So my mom hadn't finished college, and when he finished at Howard, he told her that he wasn't going to wait, So he wanted to get married, and she was in school in North Carolina at North Carolina Central. He told her that he promised her that she would finish. He would help her to finish. So,
isn't that something?
And what you didn't say was that she was brought to his attention. He had a charge down in Halifax, if I'm not mistaken, in Virginia. Is that correct, Nate?
I know it's in Virginia. Yeah, that
somewhere
sounds right.
In Virginia, he had a Baptist preacher friend named James McCoy, who was actually married to my mother's sister.
Okay.
And when he would visit the two of them, he would see my mother's picture somewhere in the house. And he started asking about this beautiful woman he saw on the mantelpiece or wherever. And he started writing her letters. He told her he wanted to meet her. And that's how it got going. But yes, you're right. They communicated long distance. And then while we were in Knoxville, Tennessee, which is where I'm going, for some of you watching, you might not know that our dad was a CME preacher. And being a CME preacher might mean you might get moved all over the place. And that's what happened. So while we're talking about that, Nate was first born in Chicago. Ricky was born in Charleston, Columbia, South Carolina.
Columbia.
Then I was born in Knoxville, Tennessee.
Okay.
And then we went to Birmingham, and then we went to Atlanta, where Mama was already pregnant with Angela, and she was born there soon after we moved.
Born there. Wow.
Right. But to finish what I was going to say is that Mom, you'd ask about her. She actually went back to school in Knoxville, Tennessee, at Knoxville College, and she graduated and got her bachelor's degree there.
Oh.
And then when she got to Atlanta, then she went to Georgia State and she finished and got her master's degree.
Okay.
And then she ended up working for the State Department of Georgia as an early childhood education specialist.
Wow.
And so Georgia was her whole territory, and she was really doing well there. And then when Daddy was elected in 78 and we moved to DC, then she didn't work again formally because, as a bit, who can start a career in a city when you don't know how long you're going to be there?
Right.
So at that point, then she kind of went full time in support of Dad, and then she had her own little hobbies and other things that she did. And she was First Lady. That was her new job.
That was her new job.
Well, listen,
let me play a little excerpt of this. You all have heard this, but I just think it's so adorable.
Hold on, real quick. Angela's interjecting. I guess he's in the same college football Hall of Fame. I didn't know that, sister.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Thank you, Angela. Football. Missing you, baby.
Well, I tell you, and let's see. I think I am Tonda. Now Tonda is on, okay, and we're gonna bring her up very shortly. He never spoke a lot about his past. I never considered Grandpa athletic, so it was cool to learn much later that he played football. That's interesting. I just want to play for the listeners just a little excerpt of this. Let me see. Hold on 1 second.
Now, Tonda's my daughter.
You tell us how you met your wife.
Oh, I met my wife in North Carolina. I was in seminary, and I asked her sister to. I found out that her sister had another sister, had my wife and as a sister, and I asked her to bring her where I was at my little church, and she brought her to the church. She worshipped with us and I saw that she was what I wanted. She said amen while I was preaching, and I knew she would make a good preacher's wife.
And Mrs. Lindsay, tell us, how do you make a marriage work for 50 years? I mean, to many people, that is just impossible nowadays.
Well, first of all, you must be friends, and you should value the same things, and you have to really work at building a relationship, because you have two personalities, and you just cannot go on the way you would want to go. You have to affirm each other. And we prayed a lot together. We had fun together, even though we didn't have very much money. And being a Methodist preacher, we moved quite a bit. But each move was a fascinating move, because we were going to experience new things together.
It was a partnership.
Well, Bishop, how do you keep the passion alive? I have to ask you that. Everybody always says the passion dies, you know.
That's right. Well, number one, I recognize the fact that we're partners together, and I constantly affirm her and tell her how beautiful she is. And even though she's fat, sometimes I don't tell her she's fat. I just tell her that I love her, and she looks at herself sometimes and say, I don't like the way I look. I say, oh, honey, you're beautiful. I keep affirming her and trying to encourage her, to exercise, come go walking with me.
Now, Mrs. Lindsay is kind of like, you told me still.
I just had to share that.
Yeah, and for the viewers, if you'd like to see that whole thing, that's taken from an interview they did on CNN, which I did post on YouTube, so you can actually see them.
And I tried to upload it, but the file was a little too large. But at least I could get the volume,
the audio. Yeah, thank you for that.
The audio.
It lets everybody know they had a sense of humor after 50 years.
Yeah. They had to have had.
Yeah.
And so your dad spent a lot of time in ministry, but he was known throughout the church as Mr. Evangelism. And I tell you, there's no one in the church, and I think I can say this with much authority, both past and present, that devoted so much time and attention to evangelism in the church. And what he did, and I've heard this from the other bishops that I've interviewed throughout this series, that then Reverend Lindsay and now Bishop Lindsay was the master of evangelism, and said that was the key to church growth and expansion.
Yeah, he spent 12 years running that department.
Yeah.
And he was the specialist in that area. In my opinion, there wasn't nobody that could touch him. And he was trained in that area, and he pursued knowledge so that he could do what he was doing. That is the key to church life.
Absolutely.
Because people are dying out, so you gotta keep on growing and expanding and getting new members.
Yeah,
and that's what he was about. Okay.
Yeah, I was going to add that he went to Skerritt College as well. I remember when he was in school there studying, doing additional studies. But I spoke about us all being born in different cities. Until he got elected to that position, that was 1966. That's what brought us to Atlanta.
Okay.
And then gave us those 12 years of stability in terms of having a constant home. Because like I said, before that time, it was all hit and miss, and we were moving. And after he got elected, then it resumed again to bishop, being a bishop. But those 12 years, I'm really grateful for that time, because I can say I'm from Atlanta. And I'm also from DC. I'm from the two places. I've been in California 30 years. I'll never be from California, but it's home. But I'm from Atlanta and DC. But anyway, as an evangelist, Daddy, that was his passion. And he was not like the singer in the CME church that had the golden voice.
Mm-hmm.
But he was the preacher in the CME church that always had a song.
Had a song. Wow.
And he led in song. He's known for that. And it's funny, I was talking to Dotsie Jr. the other day, Dotsie Ison, who I grew up with. I called his father and his mother, they're my aunt and uncles, and we're all, not just the bishops, but so many of his contemporaries were like family members to me, because they were all very close. But he and I were talking, and I was trying to remember the record that Daddy did. And I was looking at my phone a minute ago because he texted me, and I didn't realize that Aunt Esther had also done that record. They did a record. I think he and I couldn't find the name of the song on the text. But what was it, Nate? Was it Lord Send the Revival?
Yeah, that's it.
That was the record they recorded. Lord Send the Revival. Anyway,
I don't remember so much that he did a record.
Yeah, they did a 45.
So they recorded it. Really?
Yeah, okay, but that was what he used to do in the meetings all of the time. Yeah. Everybody did know him for that song. Yeah.
Yeah. So, he had a few of them. One was I'm deciding to follow Jesus. I have decided to follow Jesus. Anyway.
I love it. So your dad had, I would call it, he had his greatest hits when he went to revival.
Yes, he did. Now, I'm gonna ask you this question, Skip. I'm gonna flip it on you.
Okay.
And I already saw somebody put the comment up there. But what song is he most famous for?
What song is he most famous? Father Abraham.
Oh, come on.
Bring it on, Wayne.
Bring it on.
Father Abraham.
I
will admit I cheated a little bit because it's been in the comment section about 2 or 3 times.
You say what?
I said I did cheat a little bit. I did see it listed.
Okay, yes, there you go, Benita. Yeah. You know what time it is.
Someone said he made us young preachers to lead the annual conference in a hymn as a requirement for ordination. Sister Barbara Jackson said we young people knew him for Father Abraham, and our says he still has the record.
Oh, does he? Well, tell him to record it if he can transfer it and send it to me digitally some kind of way. Because I'd love to hear it.
And I'll inbox you, and maybe you can record it, and we can do an MP4, and that would be wonderful.
Yes. So you got me smiling now, just flashing back, seeing that. Boy,
I tell you,
that was something special. That was something special.
Well, your dad was. Go ahead, Wayne.
I was going to say on following up on the hymns. While Daddy was in Atlanta, at some point, I think one of the pastors in Moultrie, Georgia, passed away suddenly or something. And so they gave him that church to manage until annual conference, or to pastor until annual conference. So we all used to drive down to Moultrie, Georgia. But one thing, Daddy would have me play down there.
Okay.
And it was essential that I played hymns. He made me learn how to read, make sure I could read the music out of the hymnals. Okay. And he would give me assignments. Play this song, play that song, play that song. Right. Daddy was very much into the tradition and into keeping tradition alive.
Right.
And so that's, I'm sure, is why those ministers had to know those hymns for ordination. And, now at the same time, he was ready to move forward. I was the one that introduced my dad to the internet.
You did?
And I did. And told him, Dad, you need to bring the church into the 20th century.
Right.
By putting us online.
Okay.
And he says, well, son, help me get my computer. And I was so mad because he let his people around him. By this time, he's in Cincinnati and I'm in LA. And they had him buy a PC, and I'm a Mac guy.
Okay.
And it just kept me from being able to walk him through
how to help
the whole process.
Right.
So I eventually gave him one of my old Mac laptops, and by the time when he passed, he had a Mac. And he had an iPad too by then. But initially, I wanted him to have that Mac just so I could, because I've been having computers since the beginning. I've always had them since they first came out.
Wow.
But anyway, he was an innovator as well in that way. Nobody back then was doing computers in the church but him.
Isn't that something? Yeah. That is amazing. That is amazing. Well,
at least that I know of.
Right. And he was elected bishop, and he and Bishop Cummins are classmates.
Yes, they are.
And They were consecrated, and your dad served over in the 9th, the 10th Episcopal districts. And do you remember his time in Africa? Because they loved him.
I remember it too well. Now, also, just so you'll know, I sent you a picture of the day he's elected. He's standing on stage, and my mother's behind him with a hat on. That picture is his. That's it. That's him being elected.
And
or actually, she's in front of him.
Right.
And that's Bishop E.P. Murchison, right behind him, who was our bishop in Alabama, and who was like a guy. He's actually Angela's godfather.
Okay.
And I used to bite on that and make him my godfather too, because I didn't really have a godfather that I knew, and my godfather was in another place by that time. But Daddy's time in Africa, first of all, I made a conscious decision when I had this conversation with myself, knowing that this interview was coming up.
Okay.
I learned something in a fellowship one time that told me to tell my story and not my business.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? So I will say what I have to say about this as carefully as possible, but I will say this. My father should have never been sent to Africa. And also, prior to him going to Africa, it had never been mandatory that a bishop live in Africa. Okay.
So after he was sent to Africa, it was also mandatory that he live in Africa?
Yes.
I don't think it was, Wayne.
Well, they told him he had to live there. Well, that's my understanding, and if I messed up, then maybe I'm wrong, and somebody.
But they did live there for a while.
Mandatory. No, that was Dad's choice.
Okay.
Dad wanted to go to Africa.
Okay. Well, good. Well, I was going to say, what Daddy wanted to do was go wherever he was sent.
Yeah.
And that's the point.
Yeah.
Because as a CME preacher, he was not about bucking the system. The reason I said he never should have been sent to Africa, because it had always been a tradition that the junior bishops would go. People who had just been elected.
That's right.
Daddy had been a bishop. He had already been in DC.
True. Yeah.
He had already been in California. That's why I say he never should have been to Africa.
I hear
you. Okay. So like I said, and I'll leave it at that as far as all of that. So that I know. Now, that being said, being in Africa was some of the best times of their life and their marriage, because they went there, they got a chance to live among the African people, and they loved them over there, and they had the most fun. They just enjoyed themselves. Really, they did. And even when Daddy died, it just meant the world to see the African delegation show up for Papa. You know what I mean? That was our bishop, and they just showed us so much love.
Right.
And even to this day, I get messages on Facebook and things for people, from people that he's mentored, and they tell me, hey, your daddy helped bring me to the States. He helped me get a scholarship to get me in school. Your dad, he just, not just him, but him and Mom as a team, they've touched so many people's lives. And, and it's interesting, for me, it's a good thing. I'm a CME till I die, but I left the CME church when they got sent to Africa. That was it for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I understand. I do, I'm familiar somewhat with that. But your dad and Mom turned that thing around, and
didn't they though?
Best of that, and God blessed them and blessed the people in Africa, because I understand that they just love them tremendously. Well, let me bring up a couple. Text your son and tell him to come on back in. He must have gotten tired of waiting in the guest room. But we're going to bring up Tonda. You have been so patient in waiting, and so glad to have you here. Hope you're doing well this evening.
Yes, thank you. I've been enjoying the conversation.
Well, we are so glad and been enjoying your comments as well. Now, what in order of grandchildren, which number are you?
Oh, I'm the first one. I started all of this as my.
Look, you're the boss. You're the oldest grandchild, huh?
That's right.
That's right. And they would, grandpa and grandma, they would remind me often.
I love it. Well, obviously family meant everything to your grandparents, and you all have just shared some just some tremendous, wonderful pictures of the family at various occasions and various gatherings. But Tonda, tell us about your granddad. What do you most remember about him from your earliest ages on up?
I was very, very close with my grandfather, both my grandparents, but what stands out for me is just the love, the encouragement. Like my grandfather was, my biggest supporter up until, right before he passed away, like still flipping me money. And at that point, like, I'm grown, I try to give it back to him. And, that was just, he was a giver. Yeah. And I just really love my grandfather. I miss him a lot.
Yeah, had a very generous heart, huh?
Absolutely. Very generous. And like my dad said, he was a person of action. He was a doer. Yeah. So just talk about things. He got it done. He figured it out. And he didn't talk about, a lot of the accomplishments and, how bad things used to be and that kind of thing. He was a very forward thinker. And that's why, I didn't find a lot out about my grandfather up until, much later. And a lot of us didn't, honestly. But my grandmother was that part, he would do the work and she would tell the story. She did a great job of that, just giving him his props.
His props, yeah. Hey, Brother Courtney, welcome.
Greetings. What's going on, family?
Oh, I'm doing fine. Glad to have you. And sorry to keep you waiting so long, but so glad to have you in. And just tell us what you remember about your granddad as well.
I remember a lot of different things from different times in my life, but the things I remember most are mainly towards the end of his life and or his life on earth. And as I was older, as an adult, he was always just very, like you could tell that he was very committed to this discipleship and like mentorship and bestowing the information and all the wisdom and all the love that he's received into other people, making sure that it was passed on. And he was always, funny guy, loving. He was a good man, you know what I mean? I have a lot of respect for him. So
that's
what. He was very communicative, but he was very much a writer and traditionally wrote letters up until the very end. I came across some emails. Speaking of him being on the internet, my grandfather would send me emails. Even if he didn't write me a letter, he would do both. Him and my grandmother. Up until very late in life in his 80s.
Wow.
So, I kind of came across some old emails he sent me. He would send me letters in the mail. So he was very much a cool granddad.
That's an excellent way of describing him. Courtney?
Yeah, I remember when I used to take him to dialysis sometimes, like at the end, I came across this group. What's Teddy's group called again? Soul Seekers. Soul Seekers. And there was this album called The Soul Seekers, and it was like old, like kind of quartet style music. And that was the jam. So he really, when I was listening to you guys talk about hymns, I'm sure he probably got a kick out of that, like me playing quartet style gospel music. You know what I mean? Yeah. But he really liked that, just music.
Let me interject a little story, talking about music and me being the secular artist that I am. Growing up with Daddy, I was, it's funny because Nate, like I said, they're 8 and 9 years older. Then there's this big jump between Angela and I. If you look at some of the pictures, you notice that a lot of times it'll be 4 of us, but a lot of times it's just the 2 kids. So we're kind of like 2 separate families, not families, but 2 generations inside the same family.
Right.
Because Nate and Ricky graduated when I was 9 years old, from high school. But when I was 16 years old, I was in my band, Climax, from Thurl. And we had gotten, that's right, all the fellas. And we were about to play in a nightclub. And I wanted to play in the nightclub, but I was only 16. We got a gig. So I go to my father and I say, Daddy, I want to play in this club. Now, this is the same man that wouldn't let us go to the movies on Sundays and play cards at all. We just couldn't play cards on Sundays. Okay. We didn't play cards because cards were the devil's, as far as he was concerned. You don't need to know how to. You're gonna end up gambling if you start messing with these cards. So
yeah,
you know what I mean. He was that dude. But at 16 years old, when I asked him about this club, he took me to the club up on Hamilton Road.
Okay.
Not with the band, just he and I. And he walked me in the club. And he looked around, and then he looked at me and he said, "Listen, son, I'm going to let you play in this club, but I want you to let your light shine in the darkness. So you do what you do, but remember who you are, and you be that person." And so he blessed me to go ahead and do what I do. But he gave me the charge to be an example instead of getting lost.
Yeah.
You know, that ain't always easy.
Right.
But anyway, I thought about that.
I like that because he did not stifle your gifts and your talent.
Right.
And Nate, I guess you would say that was the way. Now, are all of you all musical? Nate, do you sing?
I've sang quite a bit growing up. Doing times I was in church, I was always in the choir.
Talent shows. Tell them about Mercy Talent Show.
Yeah.
Oh, I sang in the talent show in high school.
My friend Jerry Peters wrote that song.
Yeah.
And of course, I know Ricardo used to sing all the time. I remember
all the time
hearing him sing, you know. Let me put this picture up. Wayne, I shared this a while back. This was at West Side, my home church.
Yeah.
I grew up in right down, and you were on the corner.
Bishop Cole.
Somebody saw the picture and said, "Oh, there's you sitting in front of Bishop Cole and Mrs. Cole." I said, "No, that is Wayne and his sister Angela and Bishop and Mrs. Lindsay and Dr. Dobson."
I remember him. Yeah,
L. Dobson and
I do. You see me squinting. I'm trying to get close to the screen to see who was on there.
Brother Cersei, who I grew up thinking he was a black gangster. Because he always, you know, had on jewelry and dark shades and all. But these are the folks that I grew up with at
yes, sir.
At West Side. Yeah, it was such a great experience. So, you know, let me put this picture up, and then I'll have a final question that I like to pose to you, because this is just a beautiful portrait of the family.
Yes.
Captured. This is the children and grandchildren. Is everybody on this picture?
Everybody.
That is fantastic.
Beg your
pardon?
I was just saying that was the time that we had so much fun that day.
Oh,
that was a fantastic day. Yeah. And then afterwards, we invited the rest of the family in Atlanta to come over to Angela's, and we just continued the reunion because some of us had flown in from different cities to make that picture happen.
Right.
And that was one of our last big family gatherings.
Wow.
And that had been a project that I kind of spearheaded. I wanted us to get a chance to have that full family picture like that, you know.
Yeah, just some beautiful pictures. Thank God for Facebook too, Wayne, because I combed Facebook today for pictures as well, and so I appreciate many of the wonderful.
Yeah, I see pictures that I did not send. That's China and Mama. That was at our wedding.
At your wedding, and I know they came out to California and visited with you when you were on the
on Leno.
On Leno. Yeah.
That was his last trip, matter of fact, and he had such a good time. It was his last trip. That was in near December, and he passed in May. That was him in my dressing room.
In your dressing room. Yeah. Very nice. So, you know, as I have asked each family that I've had the opportunity to interview and Bishop, and the question is, what is the lasting legacy of Bishop Lindsay? We are 150 years old this year, the church is. And what should we remember Bishop Lindsay by? And let me put this picture up just because it's one that I cherish personally. If I can find it. Yeah. I have lost some weight. I started
You're
to
looking
cry.
good, Skip.
Well, thank you. But I surely cherish that picture. I called Bishop we were at a convocation in Atlanta, and I just called him and just enjoyed it. He just blessed me, and my ministry, he just laid that on, in that little time that we were together. And that's just probably the kind of man that he was, right? Yeah.
He helped a lot of people.
Nate, you're the senior brother.
Yeah.
I'm gonna let you start, and then I'll answer.
Okay.
All right. My father helped a lot of people go to further their education. Dr. Skip, while he was in Africa as well as here in the United States, he encouraged. That was his whole thing, was to encourage. He passed that on to me as well. It's very important to me to see our people understand that you can set your goals high. You cannot be caught up in just being oppressed because somebody else doesn't want you to become or reach your potential. You can educate yourself, whether you have the degree or not. You can read books. You can surround yourself with the right kind of people that are positive, that can mentor you. There's all kind of ways to get ahead in life, but your attitude and believing in God is major. And my dad was and my mom, because as a couple, they worked to help keep marriages together, to encourage people, to in all kind of ways. They were very effective outside of the church as well.
Yeah,
they were. My dad was involved with the NAACP from time to time. I'm trying to think, where was he head of the NAACP? Was that in a local area? Was that in Birmingham? I believe it was Birmingham, maybe Knoxville or Birmingham. But he was somebody who you could easily learn a lot around, including being a minister or a layperson.
Yeah.
Because he had a lot to offer. His experience had been in all kinds of areas. Being able to help people with their problems is something that is major. And sitting down and trying to find out, well, where are you at? And communicating. That's key. If you don't know how to communicate, you pretty much stopped in your tracks.
Yeah.
That was well said, Nate.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to cut you off. Were you done?
Yeah, I'm finished.
Okay. And it's nice that you said that. It piggybacks on some of the things I was thinking. Communicate was key, and then I'm going to go to the second part of it. But Daddy was an ultimate communicator from my perspective, because it wasn't about him communicating to you. So much of his communication was the art of listening.
Yeah.
He heard people. When I was a kid, we would be in the airport. My father would have a tape recorder with him, and he would walk up to strangers and say, "Hello, how are you? Tell me about yourself. How are you doing today, sir?" You know what I mean? And he would just engage people and let them get it out.
And they would respond back to him?
Yes, they would respond to him. I mean, and this wasn't just in the airport. This was who he was all around the world.
Wow.
He would go up and just start conversations with people and engage. Matter of fact, when he was elected at an annual conference in Virginia, I remember we used to go door knocking with him. Not asking for just getting to know the neighbors. You know what I mean? Yeah. And hey, we're here, and but that was his style. But beyond that, that was one of his characteristics. What I feel the legacy that he has left for me, and that I think will continue, is that my father was a man of serious character. There is an article in the paper that was titled Bishop Nathaniel Lindsay, Character Above Reproach.
I remember seeing that, yeah.
You know what I mean? At Daddy's funeral, I remember somebody stood up, I don't know who it was, but they were speaking and they told a story about Daddy. And then they said, Lindsay said something, and they said a cuss word. And I said to myself, I knew him for 80-something years, his whole life, and I ain't never heard him say damn. So that's just not who I have known him to be.
Right.
He was not that guy. He was not, there was not a difference. My father never drank. My father never smoked. He was a virgin when he got married. This is who he was till the day he died. And his character and his integrity was at such a high level that it made me decide that I will never, ever be a preacher, because I would never, ever want to tarnish that name and the reputation of what it means to call myself Reverend Lindsay after seeing who Reverend Lindsay was in my, as his son.
Right.
And he had that kind of consistency. And that, for me to have that as an example was just the best thing. I mean, it's why I am who I am today, because I had a father. And I feel for kids who grow up without fathers, without somebody to show them, what they can aspire to be.
Right.
So with me having my father in my life, then it was just like incredible, because he wasn't a tall man, but he was a giant to me. He was a giant.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
Just amazing.
Could I go?
Yes,
time to, because my phone might die, so I want to make sure I can save my little piece. But I just want to tell the story. I guess it's trailing what my dad just said was I remember I was a lot younger, and we went to a fast food restaurant, and we went to go get something to eat, and I got a drink like from the refillable cup station where you can go fill up your liquids. You can, and after you drink it, you can go back and get more. If you're still thirsty,
right?
So you could just get a refill yourself. And so I drank my cup, and I was done. I tried to go get a refill, and Grandpa and Grandma had a fit. They were like, "No, you paid for one drink. You only gonna get one drink." And I'm like, "No, but they let me. I can get a refill."
It's allowed.
They didn't understand the concept of refills, huh?
No,
they didn't get it yet. This was new, I guess. And so they just, but to me, when I look back at it, it's just like, that's just integrity. It's just, it's a microcosm of just integrity, and that's just how he lived in every area. So, let me
just add that
character
is also
reproach.
an ordained minister.
That's a tremendous story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's hilarious. So I was very, I mean, at the time I was like, what is going on? This is insane. But yeah, so I mean, definitely like a man of character and integrity, and the same always.
Wow. Well, oldest grandchild, you get the last word.
I mean, pretty much they've said it all. Like, the integrity that my grandfather has is definitely impacted my life, each and every day. Like, they were my role models, and, thankfully my grandmother's still here, but, they were a team, and until the very end. So he's very much somebody that, like I said in the chat, he valued education, family, and faith. And those are things that I model and live by each and every day. So the fact that his legacy continues to live on, as you can see from the many people that he's impacted, that is what I strive for. And I think that's what we all should, evaluate in our life, what our legacy will be and how we'll impact the world when we're gone. So he definitely, embodied that.
Well, the CME church. Yeah, go ahead.
I want to add one thing. I know we might be running short of time soon, but I will also want to say that my dad stepped out and took our church beyond the walls, not just to the community when it comes to evangelism, but he took the whole CME church to the world stage because of his involvement in several different organizations. By him being with the World
Methodist Council,
and even after, Wayne can take it from there on that. But
he was on the presidium of the World Methodist Council, so he was a global figure and leader as well. He, representing the CME Church and taking us to that world stage, and he was very well respected on the global stage.
Yes, he was.
Wow, amazing. Well, I can truly that the CME Church is the better for Bishop Nathaniel Lindsay having passed its way. I've learned so much about him, and I appreciate you all taking time out to share. I wish we had more time, but his legacy lives on. And anytime that we engage in evangelism, or anytime we hear send a revival, or Father Abraham, his spirit lives on. Wayne, you ought to take us on out with something, brother.
He never left. Come on now. He never left. All he did was go like this. With the right, with the left. Father Abraham had 7 sons. 7 sons had Father Abraham. He never laughed. He never cried. All he did was go like this.
Wow. What a way.
Yeah.
What a way to end it. Brother Nate, Brother Courtney, Sister Tonda, and my lifelong friend and brother, Brother Wayne, Ziggy, God bless you.
Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you
on behalf of us, we enjoyed this time getting to talk about our dad and bringing back closer to us, especially being so close to Father's Day.
Yes.
And this was a great thing that you're doing. You're doing a fantastic job at it. Continue.
Bless you.
And because you are, bringing our church, like we talked about before, into this 21st century in a way that, I'm looking at the comments and I see everybody there. Honey Elizabeth is up there and all these people.
Yes, Mrs. Coleman. Hello,
That's
Mrs.
right.
Coleman. That's right.
And hey, so anyway,
and if there are other bishops, wives watching through the watch, because when you do it through Facebook Watch, you can't see the comments in real time. So let me acknowledge them, because I know many of them do. But we are grateful to all of you. Whoever gets to Mrs. May Lindsay first, give her a kiss from me, from her pastor.
That's right.
Tell her I'm due a call. When I can carve out an hour, I'm gonna call her.
Yeah, you might want to look for 2 hours.
Well, yeah, this time it'll be 2 hours. But God bless you, and we thank God for each of you. And this ends our CME 150 conversation with the wonderful Lindsay family in celebration and memory and wonderful reflections of our beloved 39th Bishop of the CME Church and the Senior Bishop of the CME Church, Bishop Nathaniel Lindsay. God bless the Lindsay family. God bless you all, my brothers and CME land. And we'll see you. Oh, this Sunday at 5 o'clock. This Sunday at 5 o'clock, we have Bishop Kenneth Wayne Carter will be our special guest, our special bishop at 5 o'clock. God bless you all. You take care, and we will talk soon.
All right. Bless you.
God bless you too.
Much love, y'all.
All right.
Peace.
Thank you.
Great job.